Okay, so far in this project, what we've actually done is pretty much all backend work. So we've built out a couple services, the chat service and the user service. Well, I guess we have the structure for the chat service, but mostly we've been focusing on the user side of things. And now we have the API gateway to connect it into the front end. So I believe that this is a good time for us to now start to look at the front end and really start to put that integration piece together. So what we're going to do is be building a React app inside of here. And we're going to start with something relatively simple. So I'm just going to go over here, create a new folder. I'm going to call this one chat app. And I'm just going to go into there. So over here, let's just do cd chat app inside of there. And I'm just going to do yarn init -y, start with something relatively simple, and we can work up from there. So now from here, what I'm going to do first is just for the sake of consistency, you notice that all my other ones are prefixed with Microservices chat demo. I'm going to just do the same thing over here as well. For the main, we can probably just get rid of this for now. Alternatively, we can do src/index.html because that's technically the entry point here. Either way you want to do it here is fine. So now once we've got that, what we're going to do is just do yarn add -d, and we're going to install Parcel bundler. So for the purposes of this application here, I've decided to use Parcel. For a larger scale application or something with a bit more configuration, you can choose to use Webpack. I still haven't decided whether I want to switch to Webpack perhaps in the future, but for the time being, Parcel is going to work just fine. So I'm just going to keep it like this, and this shouldn't be any problem. You can see here I'm getting an error message saying that I'm getting too many active changes. And the reason for that is because we now have node modules, and this has actually not been git ignored. So if I do a git status here, you'll notice that we have chat app, and I actually wonder if we can do this. Okay, so we can't see it, but we can actually see that this one has not been ignored. So if we try and git add, we'll get some very serious performance issues here. So it's probably best to just quickly do npx git ignore node before we move on any further. So now that we have that, this one should go gray very soon, or at least it should disappear in due time. So now that we have this file set up, what we're going to do is also set up a Ts Config Json. So very similar to what we have in the other files. I'm pretty sure we can just use the same thing, but in this case here, what we're going to do is just go into the users service. I've got Ts Config Json, and we can use literally the exact same one, except we're just going to add in a line here, and specifically we're just going to add in JSX, which is going to be React. And this one goes there for alphabetical. So by using JSX React here, this will help us to have the correct output that we want, which is something along the lines of React.create element. And this is what we expect out of if we were using Babel inside of Babel as well. So we're just going to keep JSX React like so, and that should be perfect for our use case here. So now that we have this set up, what I'm going to do is set up some scripts here as well. So the first script I'm going to do is just a watch, and here we're going to do Parcel src index HTML, and we're also going to define a port. And let's have a look at some of the other ports we have defined. So these ones have got like 7,000, 7,100, 7,200, all this kind of stuff. For the one I'm going to show here, this one is going to be on 7,001. And the reason we choose 7,001 here is because that basically my naming system for these ports, or I guess numbering system here, is they're all under 7,000, but in this case here, basically 7,070 something is an externally facing service, API app, whatever it is, and then everything else that's internal goes on 7,100, and then, well actually no, I've got this one 7,100, got the database on 7,200, this one 7,101, this one 7,201, so it's kind of like PHP my admin is on 7.3, 7.2 are my databases, and 7.1 are my internal services, and 7.0 is my external services, apps, all that kind of stuff. So that's just what I've gone with so far, and I believe that having some sort of separation and structure there is really important, especially as your application tends to grow. So we're going to keep that here for now, and we're going to go into the chat app again, and just going to create that src index.html file. And inside of this file here, we're just going to do HTML like that. So we're going to fill it in. So if you type HTML in 5, you'll get something like this. If you don't, you can just, kind of type your own. That's fine as well. So meta charts at UTF-8, that's fine. Viewport, this is fine as well. And the title, we're going to do a chat app. We're going to put a empty div for our React root, and I'm going to import index.tsx for my main file. So tsx here, obviously using TypeScript, and the x kind of represents JSX in this case. So now inside of src, let's create a new file, call this one index.tsx. We're going to import React from React like so. We're going to import render from React DOM. We're going to do render h1 working, document.getElement by ID. We're going to do app like so. So we have our thing rendering like this, and for some reason I'm getting an error, and then let's just see if we can figure out why. I believe it's because I don't have types installed here, so there are a few types that we probably have to add. So let's go over here into chat app and let's add in a few things. So obviously we also need React and React DOM, so we're going to install those as well. And we're going to add in -d at types/react and at types React DOM, and also TypeScript, which is something else that we need here. So now that these are included, let's go back into this file here, and you can see that our syntax is now working. For some reason, I'm not getting formatting, so I'm just going to use prettier here, which should do it by default. Let's see if that works. Yep, beautiful. Okay, so now that that's done, and I have this over here, I should be able to go into chat app and type yarn watch, and then it should run on localhost 7001. It does seem I'm getting an issue for some reason, getting an invalid version undefined. So I believe that this issue is due to the fact I'm using a later version on Parcel. So it appears that the solution to this problem is actually to downgrade Parcel bundler. So I'm just going to do that right now. And if you're watching this video at some point in the future, you might not need to do this, but for my purposes, I'm just going to do that, and hopefully that should fix my problem. So I'm just going to wait for that to do its thing. Cool. So now that that's done, we can actually put back the squiggly sign here if we want to. I guess it really depends whether we'll see the error again in the future, but I guess we can first just do yarn watch here to confirm that it is indeed working, and it seems to be building, which is nice, and it has packaged, yeah. So it appears there is a problem with Parcel bundler. We can keep it like this for now, which means that we won't get any patch updates when we do yarn upgrade, but that's fine, and we can always, you know, kind of come back to it and change the version number, especially when it becomes like a more major change as well. So let's just keep it like this for now, and let's go have a look in our browser. So I'm just going to go over there and type in localhost 7001, and it says working. Beautiful. So now this is kind of, you know, large and very big and just a heading on the page. So I don't really have too much substance here to work with. So before we kind of wrap up this video, let's go in and add in a few more things to kind of show the direction in which I'm going to take the front end. So for the purposes of this project, there is a UI library I've been using quite a bit recently, and I've really come to enjoy it quite a lot. I think it's quite brilliant. It's one called Blueprint. I might have mentioned this in a previous video, but anyways, Blueprint.js, I think it's absolutely amazing. I think it works beautifully well, and this is made by Palantir, PLTR, and they do an absolutely amazing job. This is fully typed using TypeScript, and it's pretty, it works really well, it has great features. All around, it's an A+ library. So I really enjoy this one. I'm going to use it for the purposes of my project. So I'm going to just Control-C this thing over here. I'm going to add in two dependencies actually. First one is at Blueprint.js/core, which is what I need for Blueprint to work. And I'm also going to add in normalize.css as well, which I'm going to use to just give a more consistent style feel. And let's go have a look at the documentation. And if we go into getting started, you'll see that this is how we can install and get stuff added. So we just need to include a few things here. So it actually tells us to install normalize as well, which is why we're doing that over here. But I also personally prefer to use normalize anyway, so it works out quite well. And let's go into index.tsx over here. And I'm just going to go to the top here, and I'm going to add in import Blueprint.js core, and then lib css blueprint.css like so. And we're also going to add in a normalize.css, and then inside of there's a file called normalize.css. So you might be wondering how these paths work. So we can have a look inside node modules. Under Blueprint.js, you notice there's core, and then we have lib, we have CSS, and we have blueprint.css. So it's going to include this file. And then we also have underneath here, inside of under n, obviously, we have a normalize, and normalize.css contains a file called surprise normalize.css. So nothing fancy really going on here, just some directory names and figuring out how those work. So now that we have those two included, let's actually grab a button. Well, actually, let's not put it here. Let's go into our component. So new file, components, root, and let's create a file called root.tsx like this. And this one, let's just do a component like so. If I can, oh, it's not working for me. Okay. Is that gonna work? Beautiful. Okay, so we can do import all as React from React like so. We've got our root component over here. And let's just also do an index file here as well. Actually, sorry, .ts. This one's gonna be boiler index. No, strange. I need to get these suggestions working properly. So snippets, TypeScript. Yeah, okay, that's the one. Need to grab this and put that in here, do something like that. Okay, wonderful. So we can do export default from root like there, like so. So we have our root component and we also have this index.ts. I actually don't think I need this asterisk as. You do need it unless you have this Ts config setting. I believe this one, the one that we use is the ES module interrupt. So if I actually don't include this, I think I do get an error with this one. If we see it, yep. So we get an error because it doesn't have this unless we use ES module interrupt. So I just need to include that over here and we don't get that error anymore. So I'm actually going to update my snippet here as well because I do prefer this setting. So we don't need to do this in there anymore. And we don't need to do that here. So I like to have these snippets, which I've explained in another video, but I find them to be very handy because it helps me to just code a little bit quicker. So I've got this root component here that I'm now going to display inside of my index. So just something like that, relatively simple. And then inside of here, we're going to do a root component there like so. So now that we've got this, we should be able to do yarn watch again. And just give that a second to build. It does seem we're getting some errors because we don't have icons. In that case, it probably means we just forgot to install the icon dependencies. I'm just going to install that really quickly after here as well. So let's just have a look. And now you see we've got a different style font here, but let's include the icons. So yarn add Blueprint.js /icons there like so. And we're just going to import Blueprint.js icons and then lib CSS and then blueprint icons .css here like that. So we're just going to include that for the icons and you'll see what they do later as well. And we're actually going to go into root.tsx and here we're just going to add in import button from Blueprint.js core. And then inside of here, let's actually use a div for now. So just keep a div and then inside of there, we're going to do a button and we're actually going to also import the intent. So the intent we're going to be using is intent equals intent.success. So this is one we're going to be using and we're going to right click me like that. So if you actually hover over here, you can see the value and what it's equal to and what intent does. And because it has all the typing, it allows us to look at all this stuff really beautifully, which is just absolutely amazing. So it gives us access to all of the types and it's all from Blueprint. So that's just really nice to work with. So now that we have this button, let's just do a yarn watch again. So now I've done that. It does seem to say we're still getting some issues. It seems that it's because of certain source files as opposed to actual issues. So we don't have to worry about those warnings, I believe. But let's have a look and see we have our button over here in the top. So there we go. We have a button now inside of our root component. And this is a good place for us to kind of continue and build on top of a UI framework that we already have and really focus on just getting our functionality down pat instead of worrying too much about the styles as we go along.